Hello, welcome to TTales. This story is called Energy Jim. It started as a dare. Jim had always been the guy who took things too far. If someone joked about doing something insane, Jim was the one who actually did it. So when Harry casually mentioned the lethal dose of caffeine, 10 grams more or less, Jim didn't laugh it off. He just asked how many energy drinks that would be. About 50, Harry had said, but no one's stupid enough to try it. No one except Jim. They sat in Jim's cramped apartment, surrounded by tall silver cans. The smell of artificial citrus clung to the air. Jim was already on his 10th can, his leg bouncing uncontrollably under the table. "You're going to fry your heart," Harry warned, but he kept filming anyway. Part of him wanted to stop Jim, but a bigger part wanted to see just how far he'd go. Jim grinned, twitchy but determined. "I'm fine," he muttered, cracking open another. "World records don't break themselves." Back in 25, he stopped smiling. His fingers trembled as he held the next can to his lips. Sweat glistened along his hairline, despite the chilly apartment. Harry watched the numbers tick up on the recording. 2 hours, 34 minutes. "Maybe you should slow down," Harry said. "You've already had like 6 grams of caffeine." Jim shook his head. "I've come this far. I can't stop now." But his voice sounded wrong. Too thin, too far away. By can 33, his face went pale. He clutched his chest, eyes wide. "Feels weird," he muttered, barely audible. "Like, I can feel my blood moving." Harry shifted nervously. "Dude, that's not normal," Jim laughed, a dry, hollow sound. "Yeah, what's normal about drinking myself to death?" Then he collapsed. Harry dropped the camera. Shit. He knelt beside Jim's twitching body. His skin felt cold and clammy, but his heart, Jesus, his heart, slammed against his ribs like it was trying to break free. "Stay with me," Harry hissed, pressing 2 fingers against Jim's throat. The pulse was erratic, thready, too fast. Jim's eyes fluttered open, glassy and unfocused. "I'm fine," he slurred, but his body said otherwise. His fingers curled into a claw, his back arching slightly. Harry didn't know what to do. Call an ambulance? But what if they were too late? Panic surged as Jim's breathing grew shallow, his lips tinged with blue. "Come on," Harry growled. "Don't die on me." Desperation twisted his stomach. He'd heard somewhere that caffeine could stop the heart by forcing it into overdrive. If Jim's heart stopped, maybe he just needed to keep it going. Without thinking, he pressed the heel of his hand to Jim's chest and pushed. Hard. "Wake up, you bastard!" He kept pushing. When that didn't work, he kicked Jim square in the ribs. Jim jolted, sucking in a ragged breath. Harry let out a broken laugh. "Jesus, you're not dying today." But the relief didn't last. Jim started shaking uncontrollably, his muscles locked, teeth clenching hard enough to crack. Foam bubbled at the corners of his mouth. Harry scrambled for his phone, finally dialing emergency services. His fingers shook as he spat out the address. "My friend, he overdosed. Caffeine. You need to hurry." He wasn't sure how long he waited. Time blurred into a cruel, endless loop. Jim's convulsions slowed, but his heartbeat was still irregular beneath Harry's trembling fingers. By the time the paramedics arrived, Jim was barely conscious. The hospital smelled like antiseptic and old fear. Harry sat outside Jim's room, the cold fluorescent lights burning his tired eyes. A doctor finally emerged, her face a professional mask. "He's alive," she said flatly. "Barely. His heart rate was 210 beats per minute when he arrived. That much caffeine should have killed him." Harry swallowed the lump in his throat. "But he's okay now, right?" "For now," the doctor hesitated. "But his heart is damaged. We don't know if it will ever beat normally again." When Harry was finally allowed inside, Jim looked wrong. His skin was waxy and pale, lips cracked. Wires snaked from his chest to the monitor, a reminder that something inside him had broken. "Hey, dumbass," Harry muttered. "You made it." Jim didn't laugh. His eyes, sunken and shadowed, turned to meet Harry's. "I felt it," he whispered. "Felt what?" "The edge. His voice was cold, distant. I should have died, but something pulled me back. Harry tried to laugh it off, but the sound caught in his throat. Yeah, well, next time you want to meet the Grim Reaper, maybe don't invite him through an energy drink. Jim didn't smile. You don't get it, he said softly. When my heart stopped, I wasn't alone. Harry's blood ran cold. Weeks later, Jim left the hospital, but he wasn't the same. The man who had once chased every high, every dare, now moved through life quietly. Sometimes late at night, Harry would find him sitting in the dark, hand pressed to his chest like he was waiting for something. "You okay?" Harry asked once. Jim just shook his head. "It's still there, the feeling. Like something's watching, waiting." Harry didn't know how to answer. What do you say to someone who's brushed against death and come back changed? One thing was certain, Jim wasn't pushing limits anymore, because now something was pushing back. Thanks for listening to this story. I hope to see you next week. Take care.